Social Security is an enormously important program for all of us here in the United States. And the good news is there's strategies that most of us can use that can increase the size of our monthly check anywhere from 20% more each and every month to almost 80% more. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you what 3 of those strategies are, and whether you're 10 years away from retirement, 10 months or 10 weeks, these are things that are helpful for all of us to know. So let's jump in. And the first strategy is what I call no zeros. And I call it that because Social Security uses our 35 highest paying years and then does a monthly average on that. It's called they come up with an AMI, the average index monthly earnings. So they take our 35 highest years that we've made money, and they divide that by 420 months, which is just how many months there are in 35 years. But the problem is, if we don't have 35 years worth of earnings, then Social Security Administration puts a 0 in there, and they still divide by 420 months. So one of the most important strategies is to make sure that we have that 35 years of earnings. Now, this is a costly strategy, and it's costly because it takes time. If you've only got 30 years worth of earnings, yes, it would be nice to fill in those zeros, but I would suggest that you work with a fiduciary financial advisor or an accountant to figure out, before you give up 5 years of your life in this example, to keep working to avoid the no zero rule that I mentioned. You want to know what the impact is going to be. And so a financial advisor, an accountant, a Social Security expert can calculate that for you. I should say that nothing I'm sharing in today's video is financial advice. I don't know your situation, but these are things I want on your radar screen. Okay, the next thing is, instead of no zeros, get rid of the low numbers. So many of us early in our career, we're not making much money. And later in our career, we are making more money. So maybe what we do is we continue to work to replace some of those lower earning years with higher ones. Now, again, it's important to understand how the Social Security calculation works. So not only do they take our 35 highest years and then divide that total amount by 420, but then Social Security payments are what's called means adjusted. And so each dollar that you make in Social Security earnings are not treated equally. And it's really, really important that we understand that. They use what's called bend points. And this is from the Social Security Administration website here. And you can see here that the bend points here for the AMI, for the first $1,226, people get 90% of that amount in their monthly benefit. And this is really to make sure that there's at least this base where, people can pay for their rent and put food on the table. And then between $1,226 and $7,391, we get 35% of that amount. 32%. We don't get 90%. And then all money above that $7,391 is calculated at just 15%. So you can see it's complicated. It's not terribly complicated. The Social Security Administration has some really good examples. This right here is from an article called Benefit Calculation Example for Workers Retiring in 2025. And if you're going to be in that 15% category by replacing either a 0 or some of the lower paying years, then it might not be worth, this is a personal decision that we all have to make, it may or may not be worth giving up additional years of the youth, what I call the youth of your senior years, to replace some of those zeros, to replace some of those bigger years, lower paying years, because the way we pay to replace those zeros in those lower years is with TIME. And for many of us as we get older, we have limited health. Right now I'm super healthy, but I don't know how long that's going to last. So our health. Many of us have done a decent job of saving money. So the thing that's in short supply for us is time. And so do we want to exchange another year, another 2 years of our life to replace some of those? And nobody can there is no right or wrong answer, it's just what's right for you. I will say that at 60 years old, most of us have less than 1,000 weeks of healthy, active time remaining in front of us. And for most of us, the healthiest and most active years are going to be those first years in retirement. So be careful with this trade off. Make sure that it's one that you're making consciously and it's one that actually moves the needle for you. It's not like it gives you an extra $20 or $50 a month. It gives you a meaningful additional amount that can change the course of your retirement. Okay, the third strategy, and this is the one that has the biggest impact. And oftentimes people do not spend enough time thinking about it. And admittedly, this is one that's hard, which is when you decide to retire, what age you decide to start taking Social Security. And it's hard because the future of Social Security is uncertain right now. As I record this, the government says that the Social Security Trust Fund has about 10 years left in it. And then at that point, the benefits being paid out are going to be subject only to the money coming into the program. There's no longer this additional fund. And back when Social Security started, there were many, many more people paying into Social Security than were receiving the benefits. But now that number has shrunk quite a bit, quite dramatically, actually. So there's fewer people paying into the program. And the estimate is that once the trust fund runs out, the incoming dollars is going to be sufficient to fund 70 to 80% of the benefit. So there is some stress with, if you put off taking Social Security, does that mean that you might be subject to some changes down the road? I don't know, and nobody knows, because unfortunately, there's not a solution on the table for us. But I want to show you this table, again, by the Social Security Administration. And it starts at age 62, which is the earliest that we can take Social Security. And then it goes all the way to 70. And you can see here in this table here, the full retirement age is assumed to be 67. And there you get 100% of what's called your full retirement age, your FRA benefit, your primary insurance amount, your PIA. But if you retire early, it's every year you lose about if you start taking Social Security, I should say, every year you lose about 5, 6, or 7% that you retire early, such that at 62, you're only getting 70% of that benefit. And if you wait to the full retirement age, you can see is 100. But for each year you wait after your full retirement age, you get an 8% increase up to a maximum of 124%. So how do people get almost 80% more? Well, the difference between, let's say that you were going to, just for easy math for me, your benefit was going to be $1,000. If you take it at 62, you're going to get $700. If you wait till you're 70, you're going to get 124% of that, which is 1,240. And the difference of those numbers is about 80%. It's about 78%, somewhere in there. So this is an enormously important decision. Another enormously important decision for all of us is, when do we retire? When do we make that decision? Which is different than when you start taking Social Security. And that's why I made this video up here. Why waiting to 65 to retire might be a big mistake. I'll see you in that video. Thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.